I feel like we missed a field goal to end the game.
Well, somebody's got to block. You know what? Let me complain for a second. Billy Cundiff has always made people nervous as a kicker.
Absolutely.
Obviously, he was in Baltimore. Baltimore people think they didn't go to the Super Bowl, I want to say, 4 years ago.
That's always the kicker's fault.
It was Cleveland, because remember Lee Evans dropped a pass in the back of the end zone, and Cundiff had a bad season. Cundiff isn't great, and I would guess that there's going to be some long snappers in Berea this week.
Absolutely.
I would guess that there's going to be maybe a kicker brought in. We won't know about it if they do things right. But if you go back and you look at the one missed field goal, Billy Wynn, you got to hit somebody, brother. You can't let guys.
Not too bad. That's not Billy Cundiff yesterday. Look, you had a bad snap, and you had Billy Wynn miss. And whether that's a Chris Tabor problem or if that's just a mislined up field goal.
The way it usually goes from the outside end, they tell the outside guys on field goal, you try to reach the furthest guy to the outside, not block.
Right.
But if you go back, Billy Wynn allows the guy to go inside of him, doesn't touch him.
Right.
And Asa Jackson, who ends up blocking it, doesn't touch him. Billy Wynn, you're too big of a man to let two people go by you and not get a hand on them. All Billy Wynn has to do, and I'll do it from the opposite side with Asa Jackson, because it's such a timing and a quick thing, all he had to do was get a hand on him, and it takes him off course, and it's a different game. That's not why you won or lost the game, but good teams take care of the little things, and you win. And it's a bunch of little things why the Browns didn't win yesterday. It's that simple.
Hey, can you do me a favor? And I'll tell you this. Don't dial the phone if you're going to go 216-431-3820 and tell me that Phil Dawson would have won the game for this team yesterday. Yeah. I don't need to hear it. I don't. Phil Dawson was probably has been my favorite player here. What's your problem?
What?
Would have won the game.
Oh, how? How would he have won? How would have Phil Dawson done that?
I missed it.
He would have pulled out. He would have taken the ball and thrown a 30-yard touchdown.
No, Phil would have.
Stop it.
See, and I get it, and that's where our fans are right now. We have lost for so long, so I get where you guys are coming from. We're your therapy. Yell and scream at us. But I think in other cities right now today, I think a lot of people would be going at the head coach. I think fundamentally, Andy, you cannot continue to have this many penalties. You cannot continue having 12 guys on your goal line team. You cannot continue. You cannot run illegal plays and think that they're legal. That's all on the coaching staff.
Absolutely. How about knowing who's in the game?
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. This reminds me of going back, Pat Shurmur. Because this is the same kind of problems, Pat.
Yes.
These are problems Eric Mangini, look, you can go back through the last four coaches, but Eric Mangini never had these problems,
never.
Right?
The team may have been boring and everything else, but they had the right men out there, and they didn't get penalized. I would love to talk to Eric Mangini today because he's the tight end coach for San Fran.
Right.
San Francisco's right up there with us with penalties. And as not the head man, Eric Mangini probably wants to pull his hair out because they're making the dumbest penalties out of San Francisco.
It's discipline. That's all it is. It's discipline, and that's the hard part. Casper, you're on Dogs on the Run.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning to you, Casper, in the great city of Kirtland, where, man, your high school football team is unbelievable.
Tiger Laverty, right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they are good. We're proud of them. Hey, listen, guys, real quick. All right, Andy, I don't know how old you are, but I played semi-pro football for the Cleveland Lions many years ago.
Okay.
And if our defensive back...
Is he that much younger than me? Does he look that much younger?
Really not.
Yeah.
But thanks, though. I appreciate it, Casper.
Go ahead, Casper.
If our defensive backs played like Joe Hayden, our coach would have had our rear ends. And I'll tell you why. For $74.7 million, Joe Hayden needs to learn how to play defensive back. You got to look at the quarterback. If you don't look at the quarterback...
Depends what defense you're in, though. Casper, if you really played, if you're in zone, you should be reading it. If you're playing man... You got to keep your eye on the man that you're on. And I think they play a lot of man. Joe's bad. I'm not going to disagree with you, but I think there are different things that go along with what coverage is. And they're asking him to play a lot of man, and he's a targeted guy right now.
Yeah, but he needs to keep his hands off of the players, regardless if you're playing in zone, whatever you're going on.
I agree, but I'm just going off of what you said originally. You originally said he's got to look. Well, if you're a man, you got to watch the man, right?
I don't know. I beg to differ because when I played, you could be in man coverage and you could occasionally look back to that quarterback.
Well,
we did it.
I think against NFL players, you better stay on the man. I played corner in college as well. I played in man. You have to watch the man. Now you can peek as you're talking about, but if you're running with your back to the quarterback, that's a little difficult.
So you're putting it all on Joe Hayden yesterday, Casper?
What's that?
Are you putting it all on Joe Hayden?
I'm not putting it all on Joe Hayden. I'm putting majority with Joe Hayden and some of the coaching, the calls that they did.
I hear you.
Casper, thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day, my friend.
God bless you guys.
God bless you,
you,
Casper.
too.
Let's talk about Joe Hayden. Because I went back last night after we did the show, and I went back and watched some of the plays. And this is what I want to say. Joe has to play better. Let's say that first and foremost. I think Joe understands that. He's played 3 Pro Bowl type players in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let's talk about this in the right way. Everybody in this city for the first 3-4 years of his career has loved Joe.
Lockdown Joe, man, that's the guy.
Right. Who's made him into this guy?
The fans.
We've made him into the mayor of the city.
Right.
He goes to Cavs games. He's a nice guy. I think at the end of the day, is he still one of your top 5 players?
Yes.
But I think Casper hit on something. Once you get a contract that's got astronomical numbers, we expect you to be perfect. And there's no perfect corner. Richard Sherman, we were in the newsroom last night watching Denver come back and score 2 on Richard Sherman. It happens.
That's happened to him 2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. I'm not defending Joe. Joe had a bad game. He has to play better. But I think, let's be careful. That is a tough position to play. He's went against Antonio Brown, who to me is the #1 receiver in the NFL. Jimmy Graham, the coaches admitted last week, that was their mistake, putting him out there by himself. That was a bad coaching decision. And yesterday, Steve Smith, and we can debate this, he may go to the Hall of Fame. He may be a Hall of Fame football player when you look at his numbers at the end of the day. And as a coach always told me, they get paid too.
Here's the beauty of it. This is the one good thing about this. And I said this when the Browns lost to the Steelers. They get a crack at him real soon. So you want to see how much better this team's going to be? You want to see how much better Joe Hayden can be against the Steelers? You want to see how much better he can be against the Ravens? He's got 2 more shots.
He's got 2 more shots. He's got, he's got a ton of football games left. He has to play better. But to go off of what Casper's talking about, I think in the past, Joe sees himself as a man-to-man guy. He could cheat. He could put his hand in there and grab. They don't allow you to do that anymore. And Steve Smith set him up beautifully. Steve Smith ran cross patterns all day. He ran him off. And when he needed it, he stutter-stepped him and went around him and went deep on him. He beat him on the play that mattered.
All right, let's bring in another member of our team. That is Mr. Kenny Rhoda with a Batman movie poster behind him today.
I'd rather watch movies too, Kenny.
How many movie posters do you have? Is it one of your big collectibles?
You know what? It's actually signed by Adam West. I had it for a lot of years, and then when they had the National over at the IX Center a few years ago, I was able to interview Adam West and took my movie poster out there, and he signed it, but he had to personalize it. He wouldn't just sign Adam West because he told me, I don't want you selling this. I don't like when people sell my autograph. I'm like, dude, whatever. Just sign your damn name on the thing, and I'll be happy. You can put it to Kenny. You can put it to Joe Hayden. You can put it to whoever. Just give me your autograph on the thing. So it's signed by Adam West. He was a little ornery.
Hey,
he would fit right in on this show tonight this morning.
Yeah, he would, from what I hear.
He'd be right here in the city. Kenny, what's your assessment of yesterday's game? How do you walk out of this? You optimistic, pessimistic, or just pissed?
Nobody snatches defeat from the jaws of victory better than the Cleveland Browns. That's the way I felt when the game was over. I picked the Browns to win the game before the game. I sent it out on Twitter. I gave 5 reasons on my blog at KennyRhoda.com as to why they could beat the Ravens this week. So I expected them to win yesterday at home against a team that isn't as good as it used to be, that went through all the crap all week long. They were distracted. Flacco wasn't 100%. He missed some practice time and everything. It's at home. You're coming off the big win over the Saints, the momentum and everything. So I expected them to win yesterday, and they should have won yesterday. So for me, I left that game again thinking snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, the Cleveland Browns. And I'm sorry, guys. And Andre, I know Joe Hayden, he's a good player, but when the game's on the line, you expect your best player to make a play for you, and Joe Hayden did not. And it wasn't a guy that was 6'4" or 6'5", the mismatch like Jimmy Graham or anything. It was actually a guy who's shorter than he was, and he couldn't stay with him. So for me, Joe Hayden deserves a lot of the blame when it's on the line and you have your closer, supposedly defensive closer out there guarding the other team's best player. I expect the Browns' best player to make a play, and he did not.
I don't disagree with that, and I can go along with that completely. But I think part of the problem is something you hit on. I think the expectations in Baltimore, they don't expect – they know they're going to win a game. They find ways to win.
Here, I'll give you
and
the
in
quote.
Cleveland, hey, the quote is great from Wilbur Montgomery. I was there when he said it.
Yeah.
And I think that played into the game yesterday. Because you're right, when the game was on the line, what did the Browns offensively run when they had to do something? When Baltimore had to win the game, they went to their playmakers and said, go get it. And Joe Flacco made throws.
Here's the quote from last week, and I said something to Zach Jackson.
Well, this quote is from the summer. This is from training camp.
Well, he had said, this is how the Ravens see it. They see it. They talk about how good they can be and better than other people. There's talent here at every position, so now it's about playing together and not for 59 minutes, the whole 60 minutes, and not finding a way to lose the game at the end. Talking about the Browns going in it. But as he coached for the Ravens, the next line that he had was I thought, just crystal clear. He said, asked to clarify or expound on the thought that the Browns would always find a way to lose the game on offense. He said, the Ravens viewed their annual games with the Browns as such. It's going to be a tough ball game, but if we hang in there, they're going to find a way to lose the game. And boom. That's why Harbaugh's 12-1 against the Browns. They know that the Browns will self-destruct in the fourth quarter, and that's exactly what we saw yesterday.
Well, in the offensive play calling, guys, I wrote it down. The last 6 Browns plays gained 6 yards total, and they used up a total of 1 minute and 20 seconds as they had this 5 minutes to go. Final 2 possessions, 6 offensive plays. We don't count the 2 punts. 6 offensive plays, 6 total yards, and they only used up a minute and 20, and it allowed the Ravens to come in and find a way to win, and the Browns to find a way to lose.
And let's be honest, Kenny. We don't have to say names in this at all. When you give that stat and you go to the defense not knowing how many men are on the field when they go to goal line, they didn't deserve to win the game the way they played the last 30 minutes of the game, to be completely honest.
Yeah, well, for me, more specifically, the last 15 minutes, the fourth quarter. They were up 21-17 going into the fourth quarter, and then you had mistake after mistake after mistake. And by the way, if I had a flag, I'd throw it on Eric. Phil Dawson had a field goal block yesterday too, Eric, okay,
yes,
for the San Francisco 49ers. So I'm not guaranteeing that Dawson would have made that kick yesterday because I marked it down. Billy Wynn, you guys touched it. You got to block somebody.
Right.
You can't let a guy come diving through like a superhero Batman and make that block, from 32 yards out or whatever it is, and then the snap with Christian Yount and Lanning holding the football. I mean, special teams that was a huge reason they lost yesterday. And Travis Benjamin, you've got to run up and catch that ball, fair catch that ball at the 22-yard line. You don't let it hit it to 22, roll 15 yards to back you up at the 7-yard line. Special teams, and we'll give grades later, and I'll give it, you know what, they suck. They got an F for me, all right? I'll tell you ahead of time. They were terrible yesterday.
Well, do you think there'll be any long snappers in Berea this week?
I certainly have one in. Who was the guy we had from Rice? Pomprion. Can they go try and bring back him? Maybe he has refined his long snapping game. One of Butch Davis's greatest draft picks, 5th rounder out of Rice, Ryan Pomprion.
Always the best quote. Did you expect to be drafted? No, I was sitting around with my mom playing cards.
But, hey, in fairness to Butch, he was one of the more consistent players, right, for how many years for the Browns?
Absolutely, for about 7 years. Pomprion was a good guy, but much like Christian Yount, Kenny, he started getting the yips, and when they get the yips, it doesn't just go away, instantly.
No, it doesn't.
No, he's got to take his change, put it in his right pocket, turn his hat around backwards, and not think about it so much. Like in Tin Cup when Cheech Marin was the caddy trying to get Tin Cup taking care of the yips.
All right, Kenny, we're going to check back in with you in a little bit here. We appreciate your time, and we'll be doing our grades here before the next time I think we talk to you. So, Kenny, thank you.
All
We'll
right,
talk to you in a
sounds
little
good.
bit. Thanks,
All right,
man. All right, I want to go to Baltimore now, and Calvin Johnson from our sister station, WMAR.
We're talking to Calvin Johnson?
Yeah.
He didn't score on my fantasy team yesterday.
Wrong Calvin Johnson.
Oh, all right.
All right, here we go. Hey, Calvin, how are you?
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good. So you ran out on the set I saw you were in the newsroom there for a minute.
Yeah, I'm in the set now. Wanted to give you a better background.
Oh, well, thanks.
thank
Looking good
Welcome
there.
to Baltimore.
Boy, you guys got a little more money than we do. We're on this. We're on this virtual set. It's
doubt
not even
that.
real. All right, so you got your Ravens hat out today. What were your thoughts on the game yesterday? Did you believe the Ravens were going to win all the way down to the end?
Yeah, actually, yes. The Ravens play these kind of games all the time where they make you nervous, and then somewhere toward the end they'll make a play and they'll win it. I thought that obviously when we had the ball with 2 minutes to go, that's why I thought we would win it. I didn't think it would be that easy. One big play to Steve Smith, and then we're in field goal range. But I figured we'd move the ball somewhere and get it in there.
Calvin, what does it say about this team that with all the things that are going around the peripheral of this team with Ray Rice, They've played their best 2 games in the last 10 days when it's really gotten bad. That Thursday night game, it seemed like they couldn't wait to get on the field. And yesterday, I thought it was one of the worst Raven games I've watched them play. But as you said, they had the mentality that they were going to overcome it. Now, I know this week may be tough because they're going to have to answer everything with ESPN, but it says a lot about the organization that they've played really well these last 2 games with a lot of stuff going on around them.
This is when the Ravens play their best, is when they face adversity, and it seems like the coaching staff does a great job of compartmentalizing, sort of circling the wagons and sort of that us against them mentality. And that's when they focus the most, it seems like. So I'm not trying to sound cocky, but I feel like I went to yesterday's game thinking they go play the way they play, pretty focused.
Let me ask you this. Did you know who Lorenzo Taliaferri was before yesterday?
Well, I'm a draft nut, so yeah, I did know who he was. I didn't think he was that good. I was actually more worried about Terrence West. He's a Baltimore guy.
Right.
The guy I thought that we should have drafted, so I was worried that he would come in there and sort of show us what we're missing. He did get that first touchdown, but Taliaferri was a beast yesterday.
Taliaferri is going to be you guys' running back going forward in the long run.
Yeah,
I watched all your guys. He's going to be the back in Baltimore.
I mean, 4 sacks pretty good. It's a nice change of pace there. You got almost the thunder and lightning the Giants had like years ago.
Hey, let's just talk about moving forward a little bit with the Ravens here, because I could live without talking about yesterday's game, especially from a happy perspective on the Ravens. What happens to I saw Ozzie yesterday in the press box, and I don't think I've ever seen Ozzie look as depressed as he did. Now, maybe because they were losing at the time, but Ozzie just he looks like he's got the weight of the, and he does.
He does.
The weight of the world on his shoulders, and what do you think is going to happen here moving forward in lieu of what happened with ESPN last week?
I'm very worried about Ozzie. He's the guy who kind of puts his team together. He's been the one constant, even more than Ray Lewis. He's been a constant since we moved to Baltimore, making us a championship team. So I do think that as this comes out more and more, someone's going to answer for this, whether it's Ozzie, whether it's Dick Cass, a VP, whether it's Rashadi, the owner. I hope it's not Ozzie, but someone's going to have to sort of pay for what's obviously they've made some major mistakes going on this whole Ray Rice situation. So.
How do you think the texts get out last week? I mean, do you think Ray's upset, and that's how those texts got out last week?
I'm sorry, say it again?
How do you think that the whole moving forward with the ESPN story and the text messages and?
Well, I think the Ray Rice text because he's angry because on the one hand the Ravens are trying to make him look like a bad guy,
right,
and selling his, trading his jersey in. But then they're sending out these texts saying, "Hey, we have a job waiting for you. How are you and your wife?" So they're trying to play both sides, and I think he's sort of, you know what, I'm done with the Ravens now. Here's what's happening to me. I'm not going to be the only fall guy in all this. Yes, what I did was wrong. It was handled complete wrong. Now they're trying to, cast me in a bad light when really it wasn't that I talked to me that way in private.
Well, Calvin, the only person to put Ray Rice, and I'm not going at you, and I agree with you, but the only person to put Ray Rice in a bad light is Ray Rice.
No question. I think the NFL handled it totally wrong.
Absolutely.
The Ravens knew about this video. Apparently they did. They should have definitely came down a lot harder than jockey for a 2-game suspension. I think they take it totally wrong. I think it was handled correctly in the beginning and could have maybe suspended for a year, been more forceful. It wouldn't have been as bad as it is. Obviously what he did was horrible. Domestic violence, I wouldn't condone that. But at the same time, I think that once the NFL realized they didn't know how bad it was at the beginning. They knew that he knocked his wife out. They didn't need people to show how bad it was.
Yeah, you need to see that.
The comes out now. Oh, we got to act again. We got to act stronger. This city seems very hypocritical on that side. And I look at the Ravens also. We have players on the team right now who had issues, but because there's no video, they're still cheered and praised every day. And that's with Ravens with every football team, I'm sure. So
yes.
Hey, Calvin, we appreciate
come across genuine at all.
We appreciate you being with us this morning, and thank you for taking the time, and I'm sure we'll return the favor here very soon. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we have us coming at 10 o'clock, so if you can join us, it'd be great.
All right, we'll just give you a buzz. We'll talk to you.
Good day.
So thanks, Calvin.